listening to LYNC Radio. I'm Jessica Iturralde. In today's show, we'll share clips from our latest episode of LYNC Interview featuring Dr. Dennis Hoover. Dr. Hoover discusses his vision for a grand bargain for a good society, exploring how balancing religious freedom with social responsibility can strengthen communities. Then we'll head to Uzbekistan for highlights from our recent MultiFaith retreat. And finally, we'll wrap up in Miami with a recap of the Trinity and our political environment. This discussion explored how faith can play a positive role in shaping our political environment. Stay tuned for these impactful stories and more on LYNC Radio. Want to dive deeper into the world of religious freedom building and helping marginalized communities? Then don't miss our new video program, LYNC Interview.
Every religion is a persecuted minority somewhere.
In every episode, we bring you stories and insights from the experts making a difference.
We like to think about religious persecution as some problem that's over in Asia or the Middle East. It's not in Europe, it's not in America. But here's the simple truth, we're all human.
Join me, Jessica Iturralde, as I sit down with inspiring voices from around the world working in religious freedom building.
The main lesson for mainstream society would be to think twice before assuming that religious radicals are necessarily a problem for social flourishing and stability.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel or visit lyncommunity.org and click on the Media tab.
When we support international religious freedom, we are not just upholding a principle. We are protecting our interests, our security, and our values.
I'm not loving my neighbor unless I love them in a language and logic that they understand.
Catch every episode of LYNC Interview. Get inspired, get involved, and together, let's foster more cohesive and safe societies. In the latest episode of LYNC Interview, I sat down with Dr. Dennis Hoover, a senior fellow for LYNC and the Institute for Global Engagement, and also the editor-in-chief of the Review of Faith and International Affairs. Last year, Hoover spoke at a conference in Doha, Qatar, and from that influential talk, he later expounded his points into an article titled "The Grand Bargain of Religious Freedom and Religious Responsibility, the Mennonite Example." Hoover's message examines the delicate balance between religious freedom and religious responsibility, using the Mennonite and Amish communities in the United States as a case study. According to Hoover, these groups embody what he calls the grand bargain, a mutual understanding where religious freedom is granted, but in return, religious groups contribute responsibly to society.
So in the context of religion, a grand bargain is where the state and religious groups both essentially have to give something to make the relationship healthy over the long term. On the one hand, religions need to commit to good citizenship, to neighborly virtues, to, again, voluntarily using their freedoms in socially responsible ways. And for their part in the grand bargain, governments need to respect and protect all the proper freedoms that individuals and organizations have in respect to religion, and to also treat all religious groups and worldview communities, which would include secular groups, fairly and equally. So it means not discriminating against minorities, which is the most common problem, and also, flip side of that coin, not unfairly privileging the majority group, also very common.
This approach, as Hoover emphasizes, leads to a healthier, more resilient environment for religious freedom. Through global data, Hoover illustrated the stark consequences of religious repression while also showcasing communities that thrive due to high religious freedom. The conservative Mennonite and Amish communities in the U.S. have long demonstrated this balance by contributing positively through law-abiding behavior, economic support, and humanitarian work, he says. He adds that they honor the principles of freedom while actively contributing to the common good, a balance governments and faith groups alike can learn from.
The example that I'll use is probably the most well-known in terms of the challenges, but also successes of how the Amish and Mennonites have related to society and the state. And that's to do with the military draft. The Amish and Mennonites, like the Quakers, are part of the peace church tradition, meaning they're strict pacifists, right? So their interpretation of Christian scriptures and the message and example of Jesus leads them to conclude that taking up arms is just morally forbidden under any circumstances, even war. In the occasion of a military draft, members of the peace church traditions request to be exempted from military service on religious grounds. So this presents the state, whether it's the United States or someplace else, with an interesting question. Are they going to grant an exemption that may seem that's a pretty big ask to be exempted when others are being drafted, right? Or do they try to just simply force compliance with the draft? And it's important to note that most Mennonites and Amish are so committed to this principle that they would go to jail before complying with such an order. So the choice really is, do you grant the exemption or round these people up and put them in jail? So when in the U.S. experience, exemptions have been granted in a grand bargain kind of way, in which the conscience claims of pacifists are respected, but at the same time, they contribute positively to society in other ways. And the high water mark for this grand bargain arrangement was World War II, when a great many Mennonites and Amish and other peace church members participated in what were called alternative service programs, organized collaboratively with the government.
Hoover explains that achieving this grand bargain relies on mutual respect, reasonable accommodations, and a shared commitment to the common good. He suggests that when both governments and religious groups honor this responsibility, they foster a sustainable environment for religious freedom, one where communities feel secure in their faith and motivated to serve others. For more, tune in to LYNC Interview for my full conversation with Dr. Hoover, where we discuss actionable steps for governments to uphold this grand bargain and the broader role of religious responsibility in global society. Stay tuned for more. Jessica Iturralde here, giving you a quick reminder that if you're enjoying this program, please like and subscribe and share this with someone you know. Together, we can expand the conversation on building religious freedom, fostering social cohesion, and supporting the marginalized. Now let's turn to Uzbekistan, where LYNC recently participated in her country's very first locally led multi-faith event. We continue our incredible developments from Central Asia from the last few episodes, where our Train the Trainers initiative has just wrapped up its latest session in Tashkent, Uzbekistan. Following the success of our event a week prior in Kazakhstan, LYNC and our partners at the MultiFaith Neighbors Network have presented this program to Uzbekistan with a continued focus on building strong multi-faith relationships.
We are in Uzbekistan at the beautiful mountainside, just 40 minutes from Tashkent, for the MFNN and LYNC community joint retreat aimed at advancing pluralistic virtues among clergies from Uzbekistan. The retreat is hosted by alumni from our previous Train the Trainers event that took place earlier this year in Arizona. Imam Shovkat and Pastor Oleg will be hosting upcoming event.
LYNC CEO Wade Cusack spoke from yet another scenic place while
in Tashkent last week for over 2 days. Imam Shovkat Khamdumov and Pastor Oleg Vorojtsov, two of our dedicated alumni from the April training, hosted discussions and workshops that brought together leaders from diverse religious backgrounds, all committed to fostering peace, understanding, and cooperation.
Micah Fries from the MultiFaith Neighbors Network had this to add.
Our local leaders have invested so much personally into the process of understanding the material, helping form it a little bit based on their context and communicating in a way that's contextually appropriate. So to me, I'm very encouraged by the way that the local leaders have really taken ownership of the whole process and are sort of leading out in it.
Of his expectations for the event, Imam Khamdumov said he desired an increase in the general and modern understanding of the value and need for multi-faith interactions, cooperation, and dialogue. While Pastor Vorojtsov highlighted the opportunity for pastors and imams to continue to grow their relationships.
Watching these local leaders take charge of multi-faith dialogues in their own communities and context was a milestone for LYNC and a powerful example of what the Train the Trainers program is designed to achieve. Our program aims to provide leaders with the skills and resources to bring people together across faiths, creating a foundation of trust and cooperation. This is a significant step not only for Uzbekistan, but for Central Asia as a whole. By nurturing these connections and encouraging open, respectful dialogue, LYNC is proud to support a growing movement of local leaders who are committed to the long-term vision of social cohesion and religious freedom building.
So no one will believe it's not a picture behind you.
Yeah, I know. They're going to think I'm behind a green screen. It's gorgeous. I mean, it looks like we're almost in the Alps or something like that.
Next up, we'll recap a Miami event held just days before the U.S. election. This event explored the intersection of faith and politics, delving into how religious beliefs can positively shape our political landscape. Stay tuned for more.
Imagine having your place of worship, a place filled with love, hope, and community, suddenly destroyed. This is the heartbreaking reality for the small Baptist congregation in Bukhara, which lost its church home in May 2021 due to a catastrophic break in the city's public water pipes. For over 3 years, this resilient community has had no proper place to come together, pray, and support one another. The City Hall has graciously offered an alternative building, a former warehouse. We urgently need your help raising $50,000 to transform this structure. Every dollar you contribute will go directly to essential renovations, including repairing the roof, making the building weatherproof, and creating a warm, inviting space for worship and fellowship. Let's come together to bring this dream to life. You can give at lyncommunity.org.
Welcome back to LYNC Radio. Today we're excited to highlight a thought-provoking event hosted by Carter Brown, LYNC's project manager for Covenantal Pluralism Initiative in South Florida. Brown is also the lead pastor at Crossbridge Brickell Church in Miami and has worked with LYNC before on events that promote dialogue among Christians and Muslims. The event was called The Trinity in Our Political Environment and was designed not only to discuss the Christian theological concept of the Trinity, but also to foster respectful dialogue around divisive topics, including a controversial state amendment on the ballot in Florida. According to Brown, one of the most remarkable moments of the evening was during the breakout group discussions.
I think the thing that stood out most was at the end of the event when we had breakout groups. We had discussion in multiple groups around a very hotly debated and divisive amendment that was up on the ballot for the state of Florida. And in the midst of those discussions that took place over the course of 20 minutes, when the groups reported how the conversations went, every single group came back with a similar response, which was there was respect and dignity that was taking place within the group amidst division of opinion, but then all of the groups moved beyond the amendment on its face to looking at the people that are affected by the amendment and whether voting yes or no affects their lives positively or negatively. And if they're affected negatively by a no vote, for instance, and you vote no, then how should you, as a person who cares for people that are going to be affected, step in for them, advocate for them, support them, beyond just casting a yes or no vote and washing your hands and moving on? And so it was really interesting and encouraging, in fact, to see that people sought beyond a binary choice of yes or no and got more about the people that would be affected and how we might, as citizens in this country and as human beings, care for them in our everyday lives.
Brown shared with LYNC that many participants expressed gratitude for having a space to engage in such meaningful conversations. In a world where disagreement can often lead to division, this event demonstrated a different path, one where respect and dignity guide the conversation, even in the face of differing views. Participants left with a newfound appreciation for seeing the person behind the position, embracing empathy, and prioritizing love and respect over agreement.
I think that people will see that there's a person behind the position and that it's okay to disagree with someone's position. That's normal. We all have different convictions and opinions on different matters. We have different beliefs, but we should not reject the person because we reject their position, and that we can still show love and dignity and honor to someone that you disagree with. In fact, as a pastor and as a Christian, that's the mandate for me and for those that I have been privileged to serve and lead, is to say that we are called to love our neighbors as we love ourselves. And you can disagree with your neighbor, but still show them love. I really believe that was a takeaway. It was the tone of the evening, and it was what a lot of the response that I received from others in a timely moment as they stepped into this election season right after this event.
The event also offered an important reminder. Disagreement doesn't have to mean rejection. As Brown pointed out, the Christian call to love your neighbor extends even to those we disagree with. This evening at Crossbridge was not just a small shift in perspective for many. It was an eye-opening experience that understood the power of engaging across differences with compassion and humility. His hope, and ours as well, is that events like these will inspire more communities to come together, listen, and learn from one another. This isn't just about a single conversation, it's about building a culture where empathy and respect are central. You've been listening to LYNC Radio, a Love Your Neighbor community update. Just a quick reminder that we depend on listeners like you to like, subscribe, and share this program. If this program has given value to you today, please take this quick and simple action. None of us can do this work alone, but we are strong together. I'm Jessica Iturralde. Thanks for listening.